Ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba, JoJo. Da-da-da-da, JoJo. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hello, and welcome to Steven's wacky adventure through the bizarre world of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
I'm Steven.
And I'm Austin.
Aha, you
I
thought
gotta
it was going to be Kendall doing this with you, but it was me, Dio.
Oh no.
Oh god. That does kind of like bring me to a good place to start. So I guess I'll start with, or Kendall, do you want to start with your history of JoJo really quick?
Yeah, I watched the first season when it, a little bit after it first came out in like 2013. Part 3 had not come out yet, and I was really excited, so I just read the manga. And now for this series, I am rereading the manga for the first time since like 2013.
And Austin, do you want to share a little bit of your history with it?
Yeah, I was definitely later to the series. It was around, I think, 2015 when I was first introduced, and it was a friend he like gave me his Crunchyroll login. He's like, oh man, I'm going to give you this login so you can watch JoJo. And I used it to catch up with all of One Piece, and then he kicked me off his account. But then, of course, in the following years, I got that interest again. It was actually when Jump Force was going to come out. I was like, oh, maybe I should know who some of these characters are. So I actually went back to the very beginning. I watched all of the anime, though I skipped part 3, which we'll talk about some other time. And then I now am caught up with everything, and I've read through all the manga probably within the last year or so. So yeah, excited to talk about it.
And my experience is Kendall for years trying to get me to watch JoJo. And for some reason, finally, I think it was editing through all the anime intros and Kendall's passion for it, despite the weird visuals he had shown me before that turned me off from the series. I talked about it a little bit in our little discussion I had with Austin and Cassie. The first thing he showed me was a vampire squirrel killing Nazis or something along that line. I was like,
yep.
Yeah, I don't think I like anime. And so Kendall from then on was trying to get me to watch this series, and I just could not get myself to watch it. I don't know what exactly changed, but it's on Netflix, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it. So
Nice.
I will admit, I've been watching the English dub, which at least for the first season seemed pretty good, actually.
I am not fond of the dub myself. I feel like
fine.
I feel like it takes a lot of the mannerisms of the characters away. Like Dio goes useless, useless, useless a lot less in the dub.
Oh yeah, you gotta say the Muda. You gotta say Muda.
Oh,
Muda,
he did
muda,
say it a
muda.
lot, though, at one point, I think.
What?
I think he did say it a lot at one point, though.
Yeah, he
But
did.
that sounds, especially, I think, in, it was not the last episode, but the second to last one, where they're doing, the big final showdown.
Yeah.
Or what seemed like it was going to be the final showdown. So, I guess we should probably just kind of start from the beginning. If you guys want to hit topics along the way, I'm just going to try and kind of share my experience with it as I went along.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Well,
Yep, and
it's
I
a lot
will.
to jam-pack
And I
into
will.
9 episodes.
Yeah, they cut out quite a bit from the manga. Nothing too important, I don't think. Some changes I think were better for the anime. Like, the manga actually opens up with an ancient Aztec using the mask, so it kind of ruins the mystery of what it is.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, they show, hieroglyphs in the outro,
Yeah.
which I had heard before because I think it was a TikTok meme, or like the to be continued meme uses the JoJo outro.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
At least from
roundabout, but
season 1.
yes.
I don't know. So I really like the intro and outro to this series. I think they're both extremely good.
Mm-hmm.
My first JoJo intro I saw was from the second series, I believe.
Oh yeah, that's the
Because
best.
we
Yeah.
talk about that in the anime intros. But I really enjoyed the first one as well. It has, Kendall, I remember you telling me that I'd really like it because it has what I love most in anime is a Japanese man singing out like he's singing his last breath
Oh,
just
Yeah.
to experience the joy of music and life.
I'm
And
sorry, Steven,
the
but that's
first
the
intro has a lot of
most
that.
that's the most specific thing in the entire world.
Yeah,
It
Tommy.
truly is.
Yeah, Tommy is an opera singer, I believe.
That sounds about right. But I really like how it kind of shows you things that are going to happen, but you don't understand any of the visuals really until they happen in the show, so they don't feel like spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, the first episode was wild, but ends up looking so normal in comparison to the rest of it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so true.
Like the first episode isn't that strange. It's just very stylized, which
Yeah.
they turned up from the manga a bit. It's very normal in the manga. It almost feels like a period piece, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you
Because at
get
that point, you have no idea there's even going to be vampires in this series. Not
Yeah.
really, anyway.
no, yeah. I was gonna say in that first episode you do get like your kind of standard high school. Not, I guess it was kind of high school drama or at least childhood drama. You get kind of the kind of anger about having the jealousy of having somebody introduced into your life, but you don't necessarily have any of the supernatural elements that kind of are throughout the entire rest of the series. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Like, you can tell something is going to happen because there's this mask and there's death surrounding it. And I can never remember Dio's father's name.
Dario.
Diego
but-
or Dario.
Dario.
I said Diego. Oh no.
This man is just like a really creepy individual. But I like how he's, despite the fact that the Joestar family was so nice to him, he's like, yeah, Dio, go take what you can from them. Like, you become the power. You you deserve it for some reason.
Yeah.
This boy I
and,
hate.
And some things they cut from the first episode. Something that wasn't really important, but basically there's a scene where Dio picks up the stone mask, just kind of inspecting it, and and George tells a story of how he bought it in his travels to Middle America.
Okay. Yeah,
And,
it's not super important, but I can see
Yeah.
how it has relevance regardless.
Yeah, and Dio says that he has no interest in it whatsoever. Because why would he?
Right. And then through the first episode, it's just tearing JoJo down the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Until...
And Danny.
Oh, God.
The beginning of a long line of dog love in this series.
Yeah.
That was the one part Cassie watched. Like, she walked in and she was like, did somebody die in there? I was like, well, kind of somebody. It was a dog. So it's like, I'm gonna feel a trend going on here, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Just absolute, with how strange this is, like, there is a kind of a comedic tone to the whole thing. There is some absolute brutality in this that there were parts that were actually, like, truly uncomfortable for me to watch.
Yeah, I think the dub also plays up the comedic tone a little bit, which I don't care for as much.
That's fair.
Because JoJo can be very serious and very affecting.
Oh, truly, and I got that even from the dub. I'm actually, if I have the time, I may sit and watch the second season in Japanese. It's just easier for me to, like, put something on while I have, like, other things to do. So, but I at least want to give a solid episode or two in Japanese so I can hear the inflections, so I can hear how it was, at least to the original media there, intended to be perceived.
Yeah.
Yeah, you also missed Zeppeli's "Hey Baby."
Oh, God. Zeppeli. We'll get to him.
Yeah, we will. Another change to the first episode is that there's a little backstory between Jonathan and Danny, where it talks about how they become friends, and Dio is just like so perplexed. Is like he's friends with a dog.
Yeah, he sits there and it's so confused. Like, he's like, I hate mongrels, not because I'm afraid of them, but because they ask for love and just expect it, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It's like, holy crap.
It's so funny. Dio as a villain, I feel like he's just supposed to be this, embodiment of pure evil. His motives, his character, there's not really much in the way of redeeming qualities in him compared to, other villains throughout other series and this series, So it's just funny how purely evil he's meant and made out to be.
Yeah, Dio
Yeah.
has issues, but he's a great villain.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a great villain, but I knew there was no real redeeming factor to him as soon as he like kissed what's her name?
Arena, yeah.
Irina.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this guy is disgusting.
She used the dirty puddle.
That's a good moment.
That's some swag right there.
Yeah, it is.
But that kind of sums up, honestly, the first episode. Is it just drags JoJo down to rock bottom until Irina sees him as like the gentleman he wanted to show himself as at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
in
go
the manga, Jonathan feels a lot more like a kid during this part. Like the scene where George sends him to his room after he knocks over the wine. That scene actually goes on in the manga in kind of a funny way, where Jonathan basically just goes, "Man, nobody cares about me. I'm gonna die alone and no one will cry for me." And then he remembers he has some chocolate and eats it and he's fine.
Thank God. I'm trying to remember exactly what happens in the second episode. I know there's a little bit of a time jump. JoJo and Dio at first are coming off as friends, which is really confusing. It was so confusing that I knew that it must be a show that they were putting on, which was confirmed pretty quickly when they go into their inner monologues, the really stylized, colorful background that goes in. They're like, I actually hate him.
Yeah, I absolutely love how stylized the first season is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After part 2, they kind of slow down with that stuff, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. Part 2 is very stylized, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
But I think the rest of episode 2, for the most part, is pretty kind of just like... I don't recall a lot happening until Dio is attacked with the man who puts on the mask, I think.
Yeah. Jonathan finds out that Dio has been poisoning George.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that.
Yeah, and then he goes to London to try and find a cure, as well as proof of his poisoning. And along the way, he meets everyone's favorite character, Speedwagon.
Oh, the best.
Oh, Speedwagon.
One of the maybe the most important character in the whole series.
Yeah,
I would dare say.
Yeah, I remember.
Because I didn't love him in the first season.
I
thought he was fine.
I think his dub is really the problem, because in the sub he is absolutely lovable.
That's
fair.
And he's.
I guess my problem was like he just didn't do anything. But he does something in episode 3, like he makes them open fire on Dio once Dio finally puts on the mask. Once he's discovered the power that it holds, because of the second episode.
Yeah, and it is kind of his fault that Dio did end up putting on the mask. Like, his plan was just to kill JoJo and run, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But Speedwagon's little speech about him being pure evil and irredeemable, I think, is what made Dio go, well, in that case, I'm just going to become more than human.
That's a good point. I didn't really think about it too much that way, but I think you're right.
But yeah, I also really like this episode's characterization of Dio, because it shows that if he hadn't done that, he was going to pretty much end up just like his father. Just another drunken loser.
Yes.
Definitely. And it's interesting, Stephen, when you say that you didn't so much like him because Speedwagon doesn't do much. And I think that it's funny because, he really is just like a supportive cheerleader the whole time.
Yes.
But that's...
Yeah,
But
that's
that's
the
kind
Krillin.
of, his role. Yeah, he always, is kind of a support character. He doesn't have the power to do anything himself, but he does whatever he can in the background to support. Which
there
I feel
were
like
some
is pretty
episodes
consistent.
where I noticed that more than others. I don't hate Speedwagon by any means. I just I was kind of wondering what your guys' opinion on him was, because I just didn't really get that much out of him. And maybe it is the dub, but I'm basing it off of actions as well. But it does... I think he also serves as a good kind of counter to, like, JoJo becomes basically this prodigy when it comes to everything after... Like, he gets beat up by Dio in the first episode until finally he's able to fight back, and Dio's like, what the heck? How can he do this? Until, like, episode 2, I think they have another fight, and I think Jonathan never had, like, always has the upper hand, I mean, against Dio in that fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Speedwagon for me is Krillin, and I mean that in a very big complimentary way.
Krillin's great, so I understand, like,
Krillin
what you
is
mean by that.
Yeah, Krillin is probably my favorite Dragon Ball character at this point.
That's fair.
He can't really do anything, but he's very frustrated that he can't, so he does what he can, you know?
Yeah.
And I saw good intentions and attempt at action at times. So, again, maybe it is the dub. Maybe it's something I'll look back on at some point and figure out. But, again, did not hate Speedwagon, just didn't get super into his character.
Yeah, I remember when I watched it with Mom, she kind of commented in episode 3, you know, about Speedwagon. What an interesting character. Because he's so strange, you know, he tries to rob Jonathan, but then when he pulls his kick, he's like, this is a true gentleman. I will follow you to the ends of the earth.
I honestly don't even remember that, which is funny.
Yeah, the reason he's so dedicated to him is that he didn't kick him as hard as he could have.
Oh, yeah. That sounds
but
about
Speedwagon,
right.
while not the first character named after a band, is probably the most obvious one at the beginning. Obviously, Dio has roots, like, with Black Sabbath and just Dio in general.
The band Dio, yeah.
Yeah, but that one could have been coincidence at first.
Yeah, I believe that one was coincidence because I think Araki was going for Dio being the Italian word for God because he's the devil in disguise.
It was actually it was confirmed that it was based off the band. I'm pretty sure. I looked at the official wiki and it and that's what was confirmed there. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's still a little bit up in the air though, you know, and it could have been both. You know, maybe it was the perfect name for that reason.
And
but Oh, go ahead.
And then his last name is Brando from Marlon Brando.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is probably one of my favorite parts of the whole series is just the nods to bands and album names and artist names. I feel like it's just such a fun little thing that they do throughout. And so, yeah, of course, you see that here starting in the first season, which gets even more down the road.
Yeah, it becomes a lot more relevant in future parts where you can start really seeing the inspiration behind the names.
Yeah, definitely.
That's also another problem I have with the localization is that they change the names.
Oh, that's so annoying. Annoying.
Yeah, they really don't even try because they changed Tarkus's name.
Yep.
But Dark Souls actually references that character, and he's called Tarkus.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and Danganronpa, I believe, also references JoJo with a gang called the Crazy Diamonds, and sure enough, in the localization, they're called the Crazy Diamonds.
That's so funny. Yeah, I think that's one of the more annoying things when I was watching it on Netflix is I'd have to actually go back, and every time they introduced either a new character or a new power, you know, it was just Googling to see, okay, what is this actually called? And then I could kind of appreciate it for what it was. But, you know, to have to take that extra step for, you know, licensing reasons or whatever it's pretty annoying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's especially annoying for things where, you know that the artist is aware of JoJo, and they still change the name, like even if the artist is given their express permission, like Vanilla Ice.
Oh, did Vanilla Ice give them permission?
Yeah,
but
they still changed it.
Of course. Not applicable to you right now, Steven, but down the road.
No.
Yeah, sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
That's all right. So where we're at right now is Dio, I think, starts to kind of take, like, he's started to turn full vampire at this point.
Yeah.
And then comes, like, I think probably one of the more iconic moments of the big, like, mansion fight. Or castle fight? I don't remember. I think it's a mansion.
Yeah,
right?
it's the Joestar mansion. Yeah, it's one of my favorite fights in the whole series, honestly.
It's really good.
It is.
To the point where I hit that point and you asked me, like, did you hit this point? Like, what did you think? And
which point
it's
was
really
that?
Cool. Just, like, when, like, the flames are going up and JoJo is finally at a point where he doesn't have the upper hand.
Yeah.
But he's so strong at this point, so good at fighting, that he's even keeping Dio at bay until just it's finding out, like, nothing is really hurting him. Oh, fire can kind of hurt him, but the fire isn't enough. It has to be, like, hotter. So the mansion catches on fire, and what do they fall down a chimney or just, like, a broken tower? Like when they're on the roof.
Yeah, it goes on the roof, and then they knocks him back into the building, and
it's just this
manages
roller coaster.
Yeah.
Back and forth, like, who's actually, like, got the upper hand, who's like, they, like, grab onto, like, something jutting out of the wall. So then I think JoJo is grabbing onto Dio, who kicks JoJo off, who, like, grabs something else, who managed to, like, get up and kick Dio down, and if you don't know better, you think Dio's Dio could be dead in those flames, like, they've established fire kills him.
Yeah.
Or can. And then, I don't remember how they discovered Dio didn't die, to be honest.
It was a post-credit scene for episode 3.
Maybe that's why I didn't notice it.
Yeah.
So I might have missed that. But, like, slowly discover that Dio is not dead, and JoJo takes it upon himself to hunt him down, if I remember correctly, with Speedwagon.
Mm-hmm.
And Zeppeli. Zeppeli's the one who tells him that
that's right.
Dio is alive. But
That's right.
Yeah, I also don't know if they ever say his name in the anime, but the Chinese medicine guy, his name is Wang Chung.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't recall hearing that, because I feel like I would have noticed that.
They might have changed it.
Yeah.
It's possible. And then we get into what is possibly, in my opinion, the most bizarre choice they could have made. And so we start to interact with Zeppeli and kind of figure out what do they call, like, it's not chi in this, it's something else.
Hammond.
Nen is Hunter x Hunter, I believe. This is the Ripple.
Oh, that's right. It's the Rippler.
Or Haman.
Haman. Yeah.
Haman.
I
think
prefer.
that's what they call it.
Yeah, I prefer the Ripple because it kind of implies what it can and can't go through.
That's fair.
And that's also what I was first exposed to.
That's what Zeppeli comes along and brings to the table.
Yeah.
And he just seems like this strange, eccentric, but kind of badass person. And then we kind of, like, cut to London, if I remember right, and you see a man stabbing a woman in the alley, and I'm like,
yeah.
Is this Jack the Ripper? That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then we end up with zombie Jack the Ripper. And I'm just, like, sitting here watching it. I'm like, yeah, I'm watching an anime that has zombie Jack the Ripper. Oh, he got killed through a wall while he didn't spill wine.
I love how they
not just that. Oh, he came out of a horse.
Yeah. Welcome to JoJo.
Like, I was just like, okay, we're hitting this point. We're at this point of JoJo, where things are weird, and they are very weird.
Yeah, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure earns its name.
Yes, especially, I mean, every single, season, or I guess an arc, I feel like is equally bizarre, but, I'm really excited for down the road because I feel like some really deserve, not deserve, but earn the name better than others.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're equally strange. I would definitely say that some are more weird than others.
Yeah.
And so we beat Zombie Jack the Ripper, which gives we figure out what the Ripple or the Haman or whatever they're calling it, whatever we're calling it. Which should we go with? We should pick a name. We can go with Ripple if you want, Kendall.
Yeah, I don't have a preference one way or another.
Yeah, I prefer the Ripple just because, like I said, it's a handy name. It really implies what it can go through, and
Okay.
it kind of.
I'm with that, just because it's also going to be easier for me to remember, I think, too.
Yeah.
He's perfecting this ability. One of my favorite moments with Speedwagon is actually when you're first introduced to Zeppeli. JoJo, I think, has a torn shoulder, broken arm, something along that.
Yeah, broken arm.
Zeppeli, jabs him in the gut, which
and the
causes him to breathe in a different way.
Yeah.
Which triggers, the Ripple.
To heal him. And then he just picks up a really big rock.
And so they do things like walk on water with it. And there's this one moment where it cuts away to Speedwagon on the ground, gripping his gut, and Zeppeli's was like, I tried to do the same for him, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so they know Speedwagon is not meant to be anything crazy special. He's not the hero of the story, and they're not trying to make him the hero of the story.
No.
Which is why I'm okay with him. He's not annoyingly trying to take the spotlight by any means. He's not that kind of side character.
Absolutely not.
Which is, I think, why, if he had been more of that, I don't think I would have liked him at all. But I see the redeeming factors in him because he's not that guy. Then we meet Dio again, if I remember right. It doesn't take very long. Dio's actually in this a lot more than I would expect him to be, but I guess part of that's because this first story is pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he raises 2 knights, if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Tarkus and Bruford.
I'm guessing Tarkus is the one with the hair?
Tarkus is the big guy. Bruford is the one with the hair.
Yeah, I think that's a reference to Tarkus by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Probably it's a big tank-looking armadillo on the front of it, which is, I think, a nod to his design.
Yeah, and then Bruford is a reference to Bill Bruford, who is the drummer for Yes and King Crimson.
So a lot of these music references, especially the more progressive rock, prog rock.
Yeah.
Those are going to go over my head because that's just not the music I was really into.
Oh, you're in for a treat as we go through.
Yeah, I think you'll recognize more as we go along.
Yeah. Oh, there are a couple coming up that I recognize when we get to some of Zeppeli's companions.
Mm-hmm.
Zeppeli himself is also a reference to Led Zeppelin. So
yep.
I figured he was. I was like, Zeppeli sounds way too much like Zeppelin to not be a reference to that. But it's one of the more subtle references.
Yeah, I believe the idea was that because Led Zeppelin took a letter out of lead, then he took a letter out of Zeppelin to make Zeppeli.
Oh, that's funny.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
But I really liked the fight, and JoJo pulling out redemption for, you said his name was Brufus?
Bruford,
I'm sorry. But it showed that there was still some good, and the reason the pain hit was because there was humanity there again.
Yeah. It's also a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
It is. I really like him using the Ripple in the water.
Mm-hmm.
That was because I think he pulls up some rocks, which brings up just enough oxygen to.
On a collapsed coal mining tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked that fight, and then I liked that the next fight is completely different.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the fun things about the series is how different the fights are, and there's always, I mean, not always, but that point of how the hell is this character going to make it out of this situation? That's such a consistent theme. And the fact that, I really just think that it's so well done, all the different ways that, that characters are able to survive in these situations like this. And this fight is, I think, a really good example of that.
And then, we get to Tarkin in the what I think it's
Tarkin.
What did I say?
Tarkin. It's Tarkus.
Tarkus. I can't remember these names.
That's
These ones are
okay.
hard for me.
I'm sorry. I wouldn't have said anything, but you said Tarkin, which is a Star Wars
Yeah.
character.
Yeah, that's probably why my brain associated with a similar name. But the fight in that lookout or watchtower or training chamber, whatever it is barely an actual fight at first. Like, it's just JoJo being strangled.
Yeah.
Until the boy can get into the window and let Zeppeli and Speedwagon in the chamber to get him free. And then we get a strange moment where you kind of figure out some more limitations of this world. Like, you're not really sure how everybody, like, every anime, especially fighting anime, treats how people die a little differently.
Yeah.
And, like, Zeppeli was, like, this first major death of a character we've been around that has actual power.
Yeah.
And he just gets ripped in half.
Yeah, he died real good.
Yeah. Sure
but
did.
he's still alive for a little longer, which obviously, if this was reality, would not happen.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, I think
I
it's
just
also
get it.
that he had a little bit of ripple energy left in him, so
Sure.
that's how
Well,
he
a lot
was
left
able...
in him. Because he is able to give that all right at the
Yeah.
end there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you get a little bit of his backstory through that. A little bit more, I should say. You get a little bit here and there. But you see, like, his teacher, which, if I remember right, his name was Tom Petty.
Yep.
Yeah, which, that one especially threw me off. I'm like, oh, this is Tom Petty.
Yeah. The very Japanese-sounding name, Tom Petty.
Yeah, it's like a guru. And it's like, okay.
And then we
We're
get Dyer
here.
and Straits.
Yep, which was another one. Another couple names I recognized. Interesting characters, but short-lived in the story. Especially, I think it was Dyer dies very quickly.
Yeah.
Because after the big fight there, after Zeppeli's death, they make it to Dio's castle, which has just the most hard-to-watch thing I saw to this point. And it's a mother begging Dio
Yeah.
for to like make sure that if she's turned, that her son won't be killed by Dio or any of his servants. And so Dio is almost trying to, like, offer a better option, like, why don't I just turn both of you? And she's like, no, please don't hurt him. And so they do it in silhouette, but it's horrible when she's turned. You see her ripping out the flesh of the child, and it's, as a parent, that one was pretty hard to watch.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, I can't imagine because I'm not a parent, but...
There weren't many moments like that, but that was one of the few where I was kind of sitting here thinking, like, I would probably skip this scene if I watched this one again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Araki is a big fan of horror, so...
Yeah. And, like, there were brutal moments before that point. Like, you see some pretty gruesome deaths and things like that, but that one especially, that was pretty heart-wrenching.
Oh, also something I wanted to mention about the Tarkus fight. It is, JoJo has been going for like 30 years now, and that is one of like 3 times that a fight is won through a power-up.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
JoJo's been going on that long?
Yep.
Dang.
Yep,
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was like 1982, I want to say.
That explains the band names. They're a very particular era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dire Straits, Led Zeppelin, Tom Petty.
Yeah, it's really weird when you get to part 7 and you get Kanye as a reference.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah, God, I can't wait for you to get there too.
It's been introduced before this point, but we see that Dio can essentially make himself unaffected by the ripple by freezing his blood to freeze the person using the ripple.
Well, that's not exactly how it works. How it works is that he vaporizes all the liquid in his arm and then freezes it, which makes 0 sense. I like to call this Araki's bizarre pseudoscience.
Yeah. Yep.
It makes enough sense in the context of the world that you don't really question it, but you're right. Like, when you actually break it down, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like, no, you would need to heat your arm up in order to do that. Like, it would make a lot more sense if it was just like, yeah, I froze the hydrogen in my arm.
But I absolutely love, like, after you see Dyer get frozen and his head spits the Ripple Rose into Dio's eye, you see JoJo finally, like, piecing it all together, like, what he's gonna do. He knows he can't just brute force this. He knows if he uses the Ripple, it's gotta be in a very particular way. So if I remember right, he drives a sword into Dio, or I think slices down and makes it so he can't freeze him because I think, 1, he's not touching him. 2, the sword is in a torch behind him, so the blade is still hot.
Yeah, that's why I love JoJo fights. They're all about wits rather than power.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it really, you look at these characters and kind of look at the scenarios, and you wouldn't think that. Like, these guys are bulkier than a lot of anime characters.
Yeah, this was still during the era of Fist of the North Star and the like. You know, this was Dragon Ball was still just starting. It was like 2 years in.
I didn't realize JoJo was that old. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I guess because, like, I know the anime hasn't been around that long, right? Like,
no, it started in 2012.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big distance. I guess that's why I feel like I always think of JoJo as a newer thing. But yeah, this fight is really well done. When JoJo finally gets the upper hand, Dio is disintegrating at this point. He's like, how do I stop this? And he decapitates himself to live.
Which, you know, normally for a vampire is death, but...
There is obviously some different rules to vampires in this series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
And
it was
that's
1987. Fine. I just looked it up.
Oh, well, all your credibility is lost. And at this point, you think, like, this is... I thought that would be the end. I couldn't imagine what another episode of this first season was going to be. But is it the Chinese medicine man comes back and takes your head and is like, hey, we'll figure this out. We'll find you a body. And the only body Dio will accept is his adopted brother's, because he has found such a respect in JoJo for besting him.
Yeah, that's why I really like Dio, is that he's actually willing to better himself despite being a very typical, you know, megalomaniacal villain.
Mm-hmm. I feel like he doesn't even hate JoJo anymore. He doesn't want him alive, but at this point it's because he wants JoJo's body.
Yeah.
So Jonathan and Irina get married, and I believe they're sailing off to America, at least for a honeymoon.
Yep.
I don't know if they're staying there. I don't remember if that was the plan or if it was just for the honeymoon. But all of a sudden, we get a flash of a vampire on that ship, and hell breaks loose on that ship.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep, I know. There's always just such fleeting moments of peace in the series that just make you want to be like, I hope everything's okay.
And it really I believe there are 3 survivors that you know of on that ship, or actually no, there's only 2 in the end. But during the final fight, it's just Jonathan, Irina, and there's a baby. Everybody else is either dead or turned or like breaking their way in, and Jonathan's out of Ripple. He's so injured that he can't get a good breath. The last bit is decapitating one of them and sending him into the engine, essentially, or the broiler or whatever it is.
Yeah,
and he
stopping the
stops
screw
it
shaft.
so it's gonna blow up. and he gets they did this really unsubtle foreshadowing of them going like, that coffin can withstand dynamite. And it's like, okay, well, Arena's gonna get in that and live.
Yeah.
But they have to wrap it up quickly at this point, so I can't really blame him for that. I honestly didn't expect Jonathan to end up dead at the end of this. That took me by surprise, because I really just know nothing else about this series, so I'm going in completely blind other than, like, a couple little clips. So I know that every season is a different JoJo.
Yes.
So I knew there were time jumps, but I didn't know, at least in this case, that the previous one is dead. Which is cool. Like, I like that they're willing to kill a main character.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a big decision.
Not a lot of anime is gonna do that. Kendall and I especially have discussed this a lot. I think Austin and I discussed this a little bit too, at different points, that I think the thing I'm going to like about JoJo more than other animes is power scaling. Because they can restart it every single time. Even though it follows some shonen tropes, at the end of a season, it starts at 0 again, because it's a different story.
Yeah, a great example of that is that there's the main JoJo in, like, part 3 can, like, break diamonds with his fists. And then the main JoJo in part 8 breaks his hands by punching a rock.
Yeah.
So I love that, because, like, we talk about Dragon Ball, where Goku, in the start, can, like, chop wood with his hands. But now that we're in Super, is literally fighting gods because they keep having to up the ante.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way back down now in Dragon Ball. I'll keep watching it. Like, it's my childhood anime. Like, I'll watch Dragon Ball until there's no more Dragon Ball to watch.
Yeah.
But I even get annoyed at things like that.
And I think one of the other fun things is, the challenges aren't always related to, a villain in this series. There's certain things that there's, like, a situation, or there's, like, some dumb, like, almost like a slice of life day-to-day thing that needs to get overcome, and it's just about how characters deal with things like that. And so it's, you don't just have, one villain to the next monkey bar, getting stronger sort of thing going on. It can kind of be a mixed bag.
Yeah, and another great thing about JoJo is that between parts, it changes genre entirely.
Yeah, that's very true. Very, very apparent between 3 and 4, but, we'll just have to wait till Steven gets there.
Yeah. I'm excited to start, too. I'll probably start it today. I've been waiting because I didn't want any future stuff to influence what I thought about the first one.
Yeah.
I wanted the first one to be my exposure, just talk about that only. Because even though I've seen the intro to part 2, I have no idea what's happening in that, but I know that there's especially after watching the first one, I know that there must be a lot in that references stuff that happens in that season.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another great thing about them having waited so long before doing an anime is that the intros, they put so much effort into them.
Yeah.
They like set up stuff for future references, and they even reference future parts. Like, there's a quick thing, like, right at the very end of the opening where Jonathan gets, like, fire in his eyes. That's a thing from part 7.
Interesting.
And
I love the beginning of part 1, because, like, you see Dio climbing the walls and you don't understand what that visual is.
Yeah.
You see, like, the mask going into the ocean, you don't understand what that visual is.
Yeah, and it all makes sense at the end because it's foreshadowing.
Yeah. Because I have this now, I would definitely, and not because of the limited animes I've seen, if I were to go back and do best anime intros, again, without seeing much of the future, part 1 of JoJo would definitely be on there.
Wow. High praise.
I love it.
Yeah, I'll be excited to see what you...
I don't know if it'd be my number 1. Like, I'm still happy with the picks we did for that. But it's so good, and the outro is so good as well. Like, it sounds like a song from the 80s.
Oh, absolutely.
You could like picture that song in particular on the radio.
Yeah, So, since we've sort of finished up talking about part 1, should we go into some trivia?
Sure.
Ooh.
Let's hit it.
So, some things that they always do is that they change a lot of the designs for the anime. Jonathan was one of the most drastic design changes, because in the manga, his last design is basically just a shirt. But in here, they made it a bit more loose to show off his musculature a little more, and they added shoulder pads to sort of give him a Kenshiro-esque look.
Yes, he does look a little bit like Kenshiro in the end.
But the biggest change is his hair color, whereas in the manga it's usually depicted as black or brown because there's no real, like, canon colors for JoJo, which is why the color changes so often.
Yes, there were times that it would come up, like, because of the coloring and the mood, he would look like he had green hair.
Yeah.
But I think it was typically depicted as blue in most settings.
Yes, and the
Like
blue...
a dark blue.
The blue was a very intentional pick, because actually, if you take Jonathan and Dio's hair, they're actually inverted colors. So the name JoJo, a lot of people think it comes from the Beatles song Get Back, but that's because of something that happens in part 2. That's actually not where it comes from. Araki had already come up with the name Jonathan, and he decided that he wanted the last name to start in J as well, because he really liked the cadence of Steven Spielberg's name.
Okay.
So he came up with JoJo and Jonathan Joestar.
Yeah. I originally thought, like, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was a really weird name, and, like, it is, but I like that JoJo... Like, people call him that, but they call him that because his name is Jonathan Joestar. Like, his name isn't just JoJo.
Yeah.
And they even still refer to him as Jonathan throughout.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they eventually stopped calling the main JoJo JoJo.
I mean, how many times can you do it before it becomes, like...
Confusing, yeah.
Yeah.
I still think it's a bit of a shame. 2. Yeah, part 2 is a lot of people's favorite, but I have also heard some people dislike it, and I absolutely understand the criticisms, but it's definitely a favorite.
It's funny that people dislike it. I mean, I think that it's maybe one of the better protagonists, throughout the whole series, but I mean, they all have their pros and cons. It would be hard. I'm looking forward to when this is all said and done. So Steven, you got to watch and read fast when we can do a list of best villains and best protagonists in the series.
That'll be a lot of fun when we get to that point.
I feel like we have some hot takes. Yeah.
Oh, I have some very hot takes about that.
Me too.
I have none at this point because I have 9 episodes.
As you shouldn't.
One
and
villain.
I won't. Won't bring them up now, but they'll exist even when you're. When you're.
Like I said, I'll probably start watching part 2 today. I might not get very far, but I'll watch at least one episode to kind of get my feet wet. Because I really just have no idea what's coming, and I think that's a really, really interesting place to be.
Well, if you liked part 1, I think you're definitely gonna like part 2.
Oh yeah.
Oh, other than like some extra brutality that I'm not a huge fan of, just because I've lived enough life to like happier things a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And like it's an overall dark story, but I don't mind that. It was a few moments of excess brutality where it's like, that's a bit rough, but I can move past it.
Yeah.
It's not like watching endless episodes of The Walking Dead where all it is tragedy and there's no happiness on the horizon.
Yeah.
Or like Berserk or something like that.
Or even shows like Breaking Bad. Like, there was no happiness in that series after a while.
Yeah.
Not to say it's bad, it's very well done. I tried to rewatch Breaking Bad. While I still think it's very good, it was hard for me to get back into it now that, like, I know where it ends up and everything.
Yeah.
So, I watch moments of Breaking Bad. I very rarely watch a full episode.
Yeah, I rewatched it because I never actually finished the series. So.
Oh, that's fair. It's worth watching all the way through at least once.
But yeah, that's a very stressful show.
It truly is. But I love the crystal blue persuasion scene in season 5.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's like one of my favorite edited scenes in all of media. Oh, well, is that kind of like our little audio recording here? Have we kind of hit the end, or is there some more trivia you want to hit?
I'm sure there's more that I'm forgetting at the moment, but I think we've covered the like, I don't think any of the other changes from manga to anime were that big. Like, they cut out a lot of stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't really that important. Like, the whole 99 rings thing was just a thing about Tarkus and Bruford fighting with 99 rings on them, and that's what made them so special.
Fair enough.
No, but otherwise, I think that this is a pretty good summary so far. We'll have to see how we structure these when the seasons get longer.
Yep.
But for now, I think that this was really fun, kind of reflecting on this first part, and I'm looking forward to your thoughts on the second part.
Me too, because I think part 2 is also it's obviously not as short, but I think it's only like 16 episodes.
Yeah, it's not very long.
Yeah,
so it shouldn't take me too long to get to that one either. And now that we've kind of done one of these, I think we all kind of know like the commitment it takes and what it's going to end up being in the end.
Yeah, part 3 is the longest anime-wise so far.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one is very long.
Well. I'll make
but
it
very
good.
iconic.
I'll find a way.
But very iconic.
Absolutely.
Well,
Great.
Kendall, you led us into this. Do you want to hit a to be continued here?
Do 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 do. Oh, excuse me.
That song really is really good, though.
Yeah,
It is.
It's perfect.